Controlling yourself in the face of whatever it is that's going on around you, that's the key to high performance. Hey, it's Rob. Welcome back to Chapter 3 of Heads Up Baseball. And if you haven't checked out Chapters 1 and 2 yet, I recommend you do that. We're going through, there's 10 chapters in this book. I'm going through all 10 of them because we are using this book, Heads Up Baseball, in our lives to apply these principles to improving our daily life. And this is a tremendous personal growth book, even though it's technically about baseball. A lot of the writing can be extrapolated very easily to our lives, and that's what I'm doing with this series of videos for you. So we are on Chapter 3. If you are digging this stuff so far, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this video with others who may find it useful, and these videos, and let them know about the channel here, and we can all get together and win together, right, and collaborate, and that's what this is all about. So, Chapter 3, taking control. All right, taking control is kind of an interesting topic, both when it comes to baseball and when it comes to life, because there are so many things that we cannot control, right? There are so many things out of our control that, sometimes we feel kind of helpless, or at least we can, right? And I know probably many of you watching this don't necessarily feel that way. You don't feel hopeless, but there are times where you kind of wish you had more control, right? I'm here to tell you there really isn't a way to control most things. And you probably don't need to hear that from me. You probably have lived that and realize it yourself. But, there are things you may think you have control over that you don't have control over. And so when it comes to baseball and, when it comes to the book, to Heads Up Baseball, what they talk about in there is your circle of control versus your circle of concern, which is a much larger circle. Of course, a ball player is going to be concerned with whether the team wins the game, with whether or not you get somebody out if you're a pitcher, or whether you get a hit if you're a hitter, whether you make a mistake on the base paths and make an out where you shouldn't have, make an error in the field defensively. All these things, these are concerns, right? You don't have control over too many of those, though. You don't have control over winning or losing the game. You have a whole bunch of teammates out there, and you don't control them. There's umpires out there, too. You don't control them. Your coaches, the other team, their level of ability, right? You don't control that. You don't have anything to do with that. Their coaches, how they approach the game, their philosophy, the decisions that they make, the decisions that any other player on the field makes, whether they're your teammate or your opponent, you don't have control over any of that. Those all are factors in whether you win the game or not, right? So winning is one of the things you have the least amount of control over. And in sports, generally, that's kind of the case. There are certain guys who, as they say, can take over a game, right? And we see that in athletics. And if you follow sports, if you watch sports, if you play the sports, maybe you were one of those people, guy or gal, who can just take over the game at the right time and kind of will their team to victory. Well, that is definitely a thing. I'm not going to argue that it's not. And I've seen it myself, too. That is an extreme example of being in the zone, is what I would say, right? And that comes from being able to take control of yourself and block out all that other stuff. The reason that those players are able to will their team to victory is because they ignore all those things that they can't control, all those things that are in their area of concern. And they focus exclusively on the control of themselves, right? That is one of the main points of the chapter, and that's really one of the main points that I want to make about life here, is that we really can't control our performance until we are able to control ourselves, right? Self-control is huge. Self-discipline, you may call it. It's kind of the same thing. But controlling yourself in the face of whatever it is that's going on around you, that's the key to high performance. being able to block out the distractions. If you work in an environment where there are other coworkers of yours who want to distract you with their gossip and their nonsense about who went home last night on The Bachelor or something, and I'm not knocking The Bachelor, I'm just saying, you've got those people at work that they don't seem to get a whole lot done because they're busy talking and busy kind of socializing, and that's okay. But it's not where we want to be, most of us, right, that are watching this. And that's not where I want to be. We're achievers, right? We want to take control of the result. And the way you take control of the result is you take control of yourself and you block out distractions. So there's 2 rules to taking control that come from the book. And to kind of bring it full circle to our lives, those 2 rules as they apply are, number 1, you have to look at your area of control and not your area of concern. Okay? Again, I've mentioned in a previous video, I have a daughter, right? Am I concerned about how well she does in school? Absolutely. Am I concerned about her activities with her friends and things like that? Absolutely. Can I control those? Not really, right? And even though, she's a minor, and so there's certain things that I do control, I don't control her behavior, right? I don't control whether she gets an A or a C or some other grade on a test, right? I can control the inputs, right? I can say, hey, honey, let's sit down and let's study math for a half an hour, and I'll show you some things that may help you where you're struggling, right? I can intervene. I can do things to instruct and to help, but I don't have control once she's in that classroom. I don't have control of her once school is out and she's with her friends, right? I can influence that, but I don't have control over it. Those are things that are in my circle of concern, but not in my circle of control. And if I let those things distract me, and all day long I'm obsessing over whether my daughter got an A or a B or a whatever on a test that she was taking today, and I let that distract me from getting things done that I need to get done, then I've lost. All right? And it's great that I have that kind of involvement with my daughter, but at the same time, there's no reason to obsess over her performance. I can't control that, right? I can only control my performance, but the way that I get to the point where I can control my performance is that I've got to control myself, right? I've got to control my focus. I've got to control my attitude. I've got to control my actions. I've got to control anything that I can, because there's so many things that I can't, right? And again, when it comes to something like baseball or a sport, there's fans. There's the other team. There's the umpires or the referees. There's luck. There's the way the ball bounces, right? There's all these different things that are definitely important components as far as whether I have success or not, and whether my team wins or not. But none of them are under my control, right? And one of the biggest things that you control, really, above all, and some would argue, there are philosophers who argue this is the only thing you really have. This is the only thing you really do control, is your mind, right? How you think is everything. And, there's all kinds of expressions that people like to use. Whether you think you can do something or you think you can't, you're right, right? Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve, right? So there's these different sayings that we've come across throughout our lives, right? That allude to this idea that how you think is everything, right? Because that's the only thing you can really control. And your actions come from your thoughts, right? So when you're thinking a certain way, you are inclined to take certain actions than when you are thinking a different way. And that is why people act completely differently. And come to think of it, that is why 2 people see the same thing and they say different things about it too, right? Is because they think differently about it. And that's the only thing we can control, right? Is how we think. So your mental approach to things and your thought process is so vitally important to achieving anything. And in order to find success in whatever endeavor it is that we're talking about, that thought process is what's going to take you there. And if you are busy thinking about all the different things that are outside your circle of control and are in your circle of concern instead, you are letting yourself get pulled this way and that way and all over the place instead of staying focused and staying where you need to be, right? Be where your feet are, be present. And the way that you can do that is by thinking your way into it, all right? And so your mental approach, that's one of the most important components to achieving anything. And so now we have to talk about, how do we do this, right? How do we get control of ourselves? Because sometimes, let's face it, some things happen, and it happens to the best of us. It happens to everybody. We're human beings. We're emotional. That things snowball out of control or whatever. Things happen that we don't like. All right, we wish it had gone a different way or whatever, and we let it affect us. We let it bother us, and we let it kind of stay with us. Okay, and so again, going back to chapter 1 of this book, Heads Up Baseball, that's one of the first things they talk about is playing one pitch at a time and not allowing that to happen. Whatever happened before this pitch is gone. It's in the past. Whatever's going to happen hasn't happened yet. So the only thing I have is this pitch right here. Okay? And so in life, the only thing I have is this moment right here. Okay? And so it doesn't help to get caught up on what happened before that I can't change or what might happen that hasn't happened yet. The only thing to focus on is what's going on now and what I can do about that, right? What is in my circle of control. So what do we do to get that control? And it's going to sound kind of silly to some of you, I'm sure. And there are some people who, and I used to be this way, and this is why I know, there are some people who will, cast aside this advice or this technique, I should say. It's not even advice, really. It's just a technique that I started using, that I know, and that other people that I know use as well. And that is the simple act of breathing, okay? But breathing in a very particular way. And so if you have never studied breathing exercises before, I recommend you do. I am not a breathing expert, but I have learned from some, and I know what I know from doing that. I'm not about to partake in giving you a whole bunch of breathing information and breathing advice here. Go look up other YouTube videos, not right now, finish this one first, but put that in your queue, your mental queue of what you need to do next if you want to learn about this stuff. Look up breathing videos, okay? And there are a ton of good breathing technique videos. Just find something that resonates with you, that you like, and that you can do, okay? And for a long time, I was like, man, there's no way. Like, I got this advice, and I would hear this advice and a certain way to breathe, that you slow everything down. And I thought, there's no way. I can't take that kind of time. I can't. I can't stop for that long every time I feel like I need a breather. And I'll tell you what, it made all the difference in the world when I actually started carving out the time to do that. Okay, this is what I consider the number one tactic to gain control all throughout my life that I have ever encountered, is the act of breathing, right? And again, breathing in a certain way, in a very controlled way that helps you to get locked in and helps you to focus and helps you to concentrate and think about the things that you need to be thinking about and stay in your circle of control instead of being out in your circle of concern. And when things start to hit the fan, one of the main things that I do is I find a way somehow to lock in and do some breathing exercises. And it may take a minute, it may take 5, it usually doesn't take less than a minute. It's usually at least a minute or 2 that I spend to calm myself, to put things in perspective, right? And to give things thought that maybe I hadn't thought about in a real sense. And something happened and I heard it and it went in and now it's kicking around in my mind and I can't get my mind off it. That's the kind of thing that sort of invades our minds sometimes. And in order to get that out, you have to be deliberate, right? You have to slow down. You have to stop. And you have to go, okay, what is going on right now? Why am I feeling this way? How are my emotions affecting my thoughts? That's a huge question. It's a big one to ask. I got that from J.T. Fox, his wealth workout program, which I recommend as well. That's a whole different topic. But, that's a great question to ask. How are my emotions affecting my thoughts? Because they do. And if you don't recognize that, then you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. Because the people who do recognize that can now take those moments where their emotions are affecting their thoughts and realize it and then switch it. Right? You can intervene. Again, you can interrupt your patterns. And the patterns are what move us to our destiny, right? The patterns are what move us along in life. The patterns that we engage in and the things that we do on a daily basis. Look, your future, right? Your legacy, your career, whatever it is that you're talking about, it's made up of a bunch of todays, right? Today I did this, this, and this, and this. And then the next day, today I did this, this, and this. Today I did this. All your todays add up over time, and that's what you made of yourself. That is what you accomplished. That is what you achieved in life, is the sum of your todays, right? So when you are able to make more out of today by taking control and by recognizing when you're falling off and when you're getting out of whack and when you're losing control, and then being able to bring yourself back, that is a vitally important skill if you want to achieve and accomplish things, right? And so again, breathing is the best way to do that. I take time to breathe, and you know what, maybe I'll put a video up here at some point of me just breathing. That's all I'm going to do is just breathe, and you can see the way I do it, all right? Because again, I'm not here to give any instruction on breathing techniques. That's not what I do, and I would not want to purport that I am some expert on breathing, okay? But again, I have studied with experts who have outlined the best ways to breathe, I guess you'd say. And I say that with kind of a skeptical look on my face because I just know what works for me, okay? And so some of them may purport that they've got the best breathing to whatever. I don't care. That's not what I'm concerned with. What I'm concerned with is what works for me. And what you should be concerned with is what works for you, because that's what's important, right? So, all about taking control again here in chapter 3. Take control if you want to achieve. And the two rules of taking control are, number one, stay in your circle of control instead of your circle of concern. And number two, make sure, above all, that you learn how to control yourself. You cannot control your performance until you are able to control yourself. Discipline, commitment, consistency, like we talked about in the last chapter, right? Those are all things that you have control over. Those are the things that you need to exercise your control on yourself about, right? Those are the topics, those are the things. And again, just like how you think is everything. How you think about things is going to determine how far you can go. So make sure you have a clear mind. Make sure that you are staying within your focus, keeping your focus rather within your circle of control, right? The things that you can do something about. And that is how you get on the winning path. So again, if this stuff is resonating with you, and if you like what you're seeing here and what you're learning, if you're taking away some things from this, if you're taking good notes and you feel like you've got some techniques that can help you improve your life already, hit that like button, subscribe so you don't miss any more of these videos, because that's all we do on this channel, okay? That is all I do, is bring to you material that I hope you can use in your own way to help enhance your life. And what I want is for people to join the community over on my website so that we can all work together, so that we can all win together, right? And share ideas and share notes and all that kind of stuff. So head over to the website, www.yoursoulsource.com/resources. You can get signed up for the newsletter there, and you can get the notes for this book. You can get other notes for other books too. And Make sure you check that out. Make sure you share this video with other people who might like it too. And I will see you next in chapter 4.
I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me.